So we always talk about the importance of grind size and how it affects your brew. But really, does size matter? In regards to brewing coffee, right, there is always the notion of espresso brews or hand brews. Espresso is fine coffee, fine grinds, versus like in a hand brew setup, there's also that aspect to take note of, fine or coarse. How do you take note which kind of a grind size that you want to achieve? So in the espresso, as mentioned, it's typically fine powder sand-like coffee versus say a V60. A V60 generally requires a more medium-sized grind coffee. Why is it medium? Is because it's going to be a percolation coffee, and if it's too fine, it gets really choked up and it will be an over-extraction. And then in a French press or an AeroPress, you want something a little bit more coarse, simply because it's an immersion technique. In terms of brewing coffee though, because espressos typically are about like 30 seconds, it's a very short brewing process expressed as in our first video. It also uses very little water. So because they use very little water, which is why your coffee is typically very fine. Very little water is going to be used to extract coffee, right? That's why you need to grind it very fine. So the finer it is, the more flavor you extract. Versus like a V60, because you're using more water passed through the coffee to get the flavors. Versus a French press or an AeroPress, because it's a full immersion technique. You only need slightly coarser coffee as opposed to an espresso or a V60. Being that it's a full immersion, the amount of coffee can be the same, because again, there's ratios, it can be the same, but again, grind size wise, a coarser coffee grind size will be better. How do you know if it's a bit too fine or if it's a bit too coarse? When you're brewing your coffee, right, when it's too fine, you will tend to over extract the coffee, or your flow rate will be a little bit choked up because it's too fine, your water can't pass through, and that will in turn lead to either a bit bitter coffee or just your flow rate's very slow, okay? Otherwise, if it's too coarse, it will mean that you won't be getting the flavors that you're expecting from it. So yeah, just to sum it up, grind size is very important. If it's going to be too fine, you'll be over extracted, or you'll be too chopped up, therefore you won't get your flavors. If it's too coarse, not enough flavors will be extracted from your coffee. But don't forget, it also depends on the brew style that you'll be brewing your coffee with. So think backwards, what are you going to brew? Then think of what are the grind size that you want from there. There's also obviously the roast dates, but I mean that will be covered in a different video. So thank you for joining us. Let us know in the comments if this video has helped, and yeah, just let us know what is your ideal size for brewing your coffee. Cheers!